thought you gave me some shade. Easy peasy. Thanks for the shade, guys. That was really kind of you. Because I'm usually blind in the sun. You guys good? Sure. My name is Randolph Rice, R-I-C-E. I am the Rachel Morin family attorney.
You notice that some of the family and friends had some pretty strong, quiet reaction in the courtroom today. Would you talk about that and whether or not you had an opportunity to talk with them, and what did they say to you?
Well, I was sitting next to Patty the whole time, and the one thing she said to me was, we shouldn't be here today. I certainly think it's tough the first time. I certainly thought it was tough the first time to look at the eyes, even though it was on video, to look in the face of the man who's alleged to have taken your daughter's or your sister's life. So it had to be tough to see him sitting there in that black jumpsuit with his hands cuffed behind his back.
Is it possible at this particular time to repeat what justice looks like for the family?
Well, I certainly think justice for the family is this man never gets out of jail ever again and doesn't do this to another woman. This was just such a senseless act. That's something that was preventable, obviously, as we've said in the past. So certainly the family doesn't want to see this happen to anybody else. They also obviously want to see any other victims come forward because certainly now we know who he is. He's out of public, so he's not going to hurt anybody else, with the hope that he is locked up forever.
There was some new information provided in this case in court. Would you mind repeating some of that new information, in particular the manner and cause of death?
Certainly. So the information released today was that the suspect was waiting for Rachel, that he attacked her on the trail, and then he ultimately dragged her body back to the drainage ditch underneath the Bel Air bypass. And that, where in the statement of charges, they indicate that that's where she was found, obviously with some clothing missing at that time.
And again, the manner of death. It was
Oh, right. Yep. So it was that she was beaten and strangled.
Just how confident are you in the securing of a conviction? Obviously, there's ample DNA evidence that they referred to.
Sure. So this is a very strong case. Typically, when you have DNA, that's something that the prosecution is going to lean heavy on. It sounds like they may even have some timeline put together. That was one of the reasons why we've certainly been talking about this in the past, was let's develop a timeline as to where this suspect was from the point he crossed over the border up to the point that he was arrested, because a timeline will establish more evidence, more witnesses, and a stronger case for the prosecution.
Some of those details that the state's attorney started talking about the other victim in El Salvador, had you heard those, and what was the reaction and the family's reaction when they heard those?
Sure. So the information that we knew was that he was a suspect in a homicide in El Salvador. We did not know the details, that it was a young woman, that she was coming out of a bar, but then the defense objected and the state stopped talking about the facts of the murder in El Salvador. We know that happened in January of 23, then fled the country of El Salvador and came to the United States in February of 24. I have seen reports from ICE that he did try to come into this country at least 3 times and he was stopped, but certainly he made it across the border and made it to Harford County, where he is now a suspect in the homicide of Rachel Morin.
Was it your understanding that he was actually charged with a homicide in El Salvador? Is that what the state's attorney said? Based on
Yeah,
your understanding?
so he's got a red file, as I understand that they locally call it in El Salvador, or what we know it as is an Interpol warrant for the murder of this young woman in El Salvador. Yeah.
Do you know any more about, there was some confusion on the timeline or any of the underlying allegations?
I think Ms. Healy misspoke and meant to say January of 23, which is what has been reported. So January 23 was the homicide in El Salvador. February of 23, he comes to the United States. March of 23, he ends up in Los Angeles, where he attacks a 9-year-old girl and a woman. He travels all the way across the country and is now the suspect in Rachel Morin's murder in August of 23. So there's a lot of gaps in there that need to be filled in by investigators.
Do you know when the Interpol warrant was obtained or issued?
I don't. And that certainly is a question that people are going to ask, because had he come across the border, had he been stopped by ICE, and had that Interpol warrant been active, that would have been information they certainly would have known that would have prevented him coming across, and we wouldn't be here today.
If you can say, how did they even know he was in Oklahoma?
So I can tell you that the investigators used genealogical information to track down family members here in Maryland. They then went to that home, interviewed those family members, obtained his personal belongings, tested that DNA. How they got from that DNA to a bar in Tulsa, we don't know. It certainly, I think, would be reasonable to guess that technology was used, that ultimately now they had a name, because remember, during this whole investigation, we had DNA, we had a side view from the camera, but we didn't have a name. And maybe with the name, that gave investigators ability to then track him electronically.
His daughter and his parents, is that the family that's in Maryland?
Of the suspect?
Yeah. Or
I
they in
don't
Oklahoma?
know, and that's something we learned new today, is that he's got a mother and father that he takes care of, but he also has a 3-year-old daughter, which we did not know. I don't know where she's located at this time.
The family in Maryland, are they here in Harford County?
I don't know the answer to that. Yeah.
The defense mentioned that this was largely an academic hearing because of those detainers, but after speaking with the family, how do they feel to hear that he was held without bond and that was still happening if it was routine?
Yeah, I mean, look, they're relieved. There's been a little bit of joy this past week in the fact that he's been caught, but relief is one of the biggest feelings I think they're feeling right now. I don't know if you noticed, but Patty Morin was very emotional. The deputies handed her a box of Kleenex because she was crying. Again, looking in the face of somebody who is alleged to have killed your daughter has got to be tough. And this is the first time she's been that close to it. We've seen it on TV, but now it becomes, I think, a little more real. And the process starts for the prosecution, which is going to be a long road.
Could his family members face any repercussions for not turning him in sooner?
There could be a harboring a fugitive charge or a harboring charge. I have not heard detectives talking about that, though. And you would have to have known that he was a suspect, although I can't imagine in the past 10 months if you had to be living under a rock in Maryland to not hear about Rachel Morin because of all the efforts and the digital campaigns and the news coverage by you guys. So it would be hard for me to believe that somebody does not know what happened to Rachel Morin. And in addition, we did those campaigns in Spanish as well because we believed that this was an issue. We did those campaigns in Spanish along the the U.S.-Mexico border, because we believe that this would be one of those facts that would come forward that he would be from South America or somewhere south of the border. Good?
Thanks, Randall.
Everybody good?
Thank you.
Thank you guys. You guys were part of this, by the way, because I think keeping this story alive is what kept the detectives going. So thank you. I appreciate that.
I stopped at.
Oh yeah, I'll still
They'll be $5 each now.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll get him.
We're getting something else?
Yes.
Can you turn on the lights?
Let's go.
Anyone? Very briefly. Well, this is right there, right behind this. Oh, thank you so much. Right here. Oh. Into this mic, please. Okay.
You can wait one second. He's gonna put a mic up. Like that.
Just let you do your talking and just. You're fine.
Sorry, guys.
You're good.
Yeah, okay. Okay, copy that, bye.
Can you start by saying and spelling your first and last name for us?
Erin Layman, ERINLAYMAN.
And Matthew McMahon, MATTHEW, MC capital N, AHON, and Erin's Rachel's sister, and I'm the father of Rachel's oldest child, and soon to be grandfather of her granddaughter.
There were some.
So we're going to keep this brief. I just want to say I have full faith and confidence in the judicial system, and I just want to express my deepest gratitude for all the members of the Harford County Sheriff's Department, the Maryland State Police, the LAPD, the FBI, Homeland Security, and anybody else that I may not have mentioned that has helped get us to this point. I'd like to thank the media too for just keeping the spotlight on Rachel and not forgetting Rachel and the people that loved Rachel. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything you'd like to say about what you heard or saw today at all?
I prefer not to. I think at this point, I'm happy to leave this in the hands of the state's attorney and the deputy state's attorney.
Are you happy with the outcome of the being held behind bars, obviously?
Definitely. Yeah.
It is what it is. No, I can't think of any further comments. But.
Sir, it came late. Could you please identify yourselves and why you're associated or interested in this?
Sure, we'll let Erin go first.
I'm Erin Layman, Rachel's half sister.
And I'm Matthew McMahon. I'm the father of Rachel's oldest child, and later this year I'll be the grandfather of her granddaughter. Our daughter Faye is going to give birth between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I feel like the due date is that's her news to share if she ever chooses to share it, but in that time frame.
What was it like seeing his face?
Oh, that was tough.
It wasn't the first time I've seen his face. The first time was Friday. I'm sure we'll see his face more, but again, at this point, I'm happy to have this turned over to the state's attorney's office. So I don't feel the need to make any further comments. I put forth a lot of effort. A lot of people put forth a lot of effort to try to keep Rachel's name alive and to try to identify this person. But I think that job's done. So.
Did he show any emotion, any remorse, any kind of?
He seemed not remorseful at all. So that was kind of tough too, you know. For me to hear everything that he's been charged with, and like didn't even faze him. So you're welcome.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
If they got it, good. If not, then we can take it.